Hello everyone, this video is going to be about using the multi-hoop feature in embroidery wear. Basically on this screen I have a design that's not fitting in my hoop. I have a 120 by 120 hoop, and you can see this snowflake here does not fit in my hoop. So how would I do that? I could do the word snow and the other two snowflakes in the hoop, but this particular item I could not. So the way you do multi-hoops is, if you notice in the objector, when you open and create a design, you always have this thing that's called hoop 0. So hoop 0 is the default hoop. And basically how that works is, if we want to separate this into two hoops, we probably would want to add two hoops and turn the default hoop off. Or we could create one hoop and then we could have hoop 0 be the other hoop. So let me show you how that's done. So if you go to the hoop settings menu and you choose set hoop, you'll get a screen like this. And you notice I already have the hoop set to 120 by 120. And if you look at hoop 1, 2, and 3, etc., there's no hoops listed here. So hoop 0 is the default hoop. And that's what's shown here with the dotted lines. Now if I want a new hoop, I just say add. And you notice on the screen there will now be a red box around the same position as the original hoop. Now that we have a second hoop created, we can move this hoop. Now if you notice in this case, this snowflake and this snowflake, well, I just call them designs because they're not really snowflakes, are they? Would be inside the hoop, so I would not have to have the hoop go around them. But this bigger snowflake is further to the right. So what I can do is I can just take this hoop 1 and move it to be around that other snowflake. Now what's important is you want the hoops to cross each other, because you're going to put a alignment mark in the design so that you can align these objects once you stitched them out and you rehooped to the other object. So now that we have two hoops, we'll close this window, and you'll notice now in the object browser there's two hoops listed. So the way this works is the hoops that you don't want in one hoop, well, if we turn these all off, nothing will be stitched. So for example, this big hoop, big snowflake I should say, we want in hoop 1, and then the rest of them we want in hoop 0. So we'll just click hoop 0. So what this does is that there will be two DST files generated, one for hoop 0 and one for hoop 1. The hoop 0 file will just be the name of whatever you name, and then you'll have other files with H1, H2, etc. on their extensions. So we're not quite finished yet though, because we need to put an alignment mark that's shared between the two hoops into the design. So let me show you how to do that next. An alignment mark is going to be an easy stitch that you can take out. So in this case I'm just going to turn on the grid so I can make it nice and square. And what we're going to basically do is just do an L shape in the design. And we want to avoid our objects because we don't want to stitch over them with the actual alignment mark. So now we have an alignment mark in the design, and we're going to change this alignment mark from single to as drawn single. And we don't want to add any stitches or lines. This is going to be a big basting mark like this, and we'll use the center point as our alignment mark. Now what's important about the alignment mark is you want the alignment mark to be repeated in both hoops. So we're going to click both of these marks, and so this mark will be put in the first design and it'll be put in the last design. Right now the way it is in the stitch order, it's going to be the last item stitched in both cases. I think that's okay. And so these are all the same color, so they're all going to be going in order. So you're going to get a jump stitch coming down here from the alignment mark from snow, and then it's going to go here and here. So this should be easy to pull out of your design because it's only 2 stitches. And so we're finished for now. So now all we have to do is we have to just save off the file, and you will have 2 files generated. One called, I'm going to call this snow, let's say, snow. Just snow would be snow.dst, and then there would be a snow h1.dst generated. I decided to do one last step in my design. I'm changing the mark to a different color so that I have a stop here. I might not want to stitch it in the second phase when I do the actual big snowflake, but I will want it to be stitched in the first hoop so that it's there as a mark that I can reference to when I line up the second design. Now you notice when I actually save this off that I actually have 2 files. I have a snow h1 and a snow. The snow is the hoop 0 and the snow h1 is the hoop 1. These are the 2 files that I'll load in my machine separately. For each step I will do the first one with snow, and then I'll rehoop and do h1, and I'll line up to the alignment mark. Now you notice in the machine now we have 2 designs here. We have the bigger snowflake with the green represents the mark, and then we have the other snowflakes with snow where the green represents the mark. So we're going to start with the first one. You know, notice that basically we have a stitch mark after snow gets stitched out. We're going to have this mark that we'll use to align the second hoop. Now on the stitch out screen you notice we have 2 colors here. This green represents the mark, and so we're just going to stitch out the blue, and then we're not going to take the thread out, we'll just leave the thread in the machine, and we'll go to the second color and stitch out the second stitch. Now you notice now we have a stitch mark right here actually. I did it too loose, it came out. But anyway, this stitch mark's still here. We'll use that as our reference point for the next design. Notice I brought in the new design, and this point right here is actually where I want to put the calibration point for this particular machine. So I'm going to move this over here. And for the purposes of the video, I'm not going to do it super accurately. I'm just going to get it sort of close. That's good enough. So basically now my machine has basically using that as a calibration point. So then what I do later is I just move the hoop till I get to my point, which in this case is right approximately here. You can't really see that very well, but you line up the needle to that point in the case, depending on how your machine is set up, and now I'm calibrated to the previous hoop. So you'll notice now, right now, I got the needle pushed into that thread point, and that's exactly the same place as the previous hoop. So now my design is ready to go and be stitched out. Now you can see the end result. All the jump lines are taken out, and the index mark was taken out, and you have a design that was multi-hoop.